Okay, we are now live on Facebook.
Was Pastor Linder or Miss Bull's going to be available today?
That was going to be my next question. Miss Wheeler, has anybody emailed you or any of the other board members to say that those two were not going to be present tonight?
No.
Okay.
I've not heard from either one.
We're live on Facebook right now, and I'm not recording for the minutes quite yet until we start the meeting. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll go from there.
How many do we need for a quorum?
3.
Okay.
There's Ms. Bowles. It's a nice shirt, Chris. It's good timing on that.
I wanted to mention this at the city council meeting the other day, but I remember a couple years ago, Councilman Dan Skinner sponsored a resolution in city council, supporting the Columbus crew and advocating on their behalf to stay in the city of Columbus. And just a couple years later, they're champions. So what a long, strange road it's been, but
Yeah.
seems worth it.
Too bad the fans couldn't have been there to watch it.
Some fans there, I think they all paid a pretty steep price.
Yeah. I'm just going to give us like 2 more minutes. Emily, we'll start at 6:35 on Euro Ready. Even if Pastor Linder, maybe something happened. All right, Miss Wheeler, let's kick it off and let's get started. Well, actually, I should just be passing it over to Tony. You should kick it off and start the meeting.
That's fine. Are we recording?
We are recording now.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the December 17th meeting of the Reynoldsburg Board of Zoning and Building Appeals to order at 6:36 p.m. on my computer. If we could have the roll call, please.
Miss Barnard,
Here,
Miss Bowles,
Here.
thank you. Mr. First,
Here.
Pastor Linder, Mr. Retke,
Here. Are there any additions or changes to the minutes as submitted from the November 19th, 2020 meeting? Hearing of none, we'll mark those as approved. Any changes to the agenda as presented? Seeing or hearing none, we'll mark those as approved. We'll move on to swearing in of the speakers. It appears we only have one speaker. So we'll go ahead and swear you in. Mr. Carter, do you swear or affirm that the information being provided here today before the Reynoldsburg Board of Zoning and Building Appeals is true to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you. Moving on, item B, any public comment? Seeing no public, we'll move on to item C, unfinished business. No unfinished business come before the board. We'll move to item D, new business. Can we please have the presentation for application number 2020-5499 for 1792 Bryce Road, please?
thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for a conditional use permit. The property is located at 1792 Bryce Road. This is within our innovation zone. And the applicant is requesting BZBA approval of a conditional use to operate a child daycare center that will service approximately 40 to 45 children. Child daycare center is listed as a conditional use in innovation zone, hence the reason for the application before you. And other than that, there was a staff report that addressed some of the conditional use standards. And I believe, again, the applicant is on this evening if there are more specific questions.
Mr. Carter, would you like to give a presentation and go a little bit more in depth than what Ms. Wheeler did about the business and your location and what you plan to do there?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm looking for a conditional use permit for location 1792 Bryce Road. It will go into an existing structure, it's an existing plaza. So it will require little to no construction. It is going to be a child care center, and we do plan to abide by all Reynoldsburg City provisions and regulations, Ohio Job and Family Services, and the state of Ohio. As Ms. Wheeler mentioned, the center will hold about 45 to 50 children. We do plan to staff about 10 to 12 staff members, and we will be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the playground the playground will be behind the center. It will be protected. It'll be about 600 square feet. It'll be protected by the first line of defense will be concrete barriers, and then the second line of defense will be concrete bollards that are about 8 inches in diameter and about say 5 feet tall.
Anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments?
I had a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Mr. Carter, is this a new business, or are you relocating from somewhere else?
This will be a new business.
Okay. And what particularly drew you to this site? Was there just because I know that we're asking for conditional use here?
I was looking for a location that didn't require a lot of construction, that wouldn't impede like local traffic or anything like that. So that seemed to be a good location. I do know some other daycare owners in the area. So Reynoldsburg just seemed to be a good place for me. And I've worked with Columbus Public Schools about 10 years ago for about 3 years. So childcare is a passion of mine. I've gotten out of it, but it is a passion of mine.
So you also mentioned that this would bring 10 to 12, are these full-time jobs
Yes, they will
to
be
the
full.
city?
Yes.
Mr. Carter, it's my understanding that this unit that you're going to be occupying was a former private club. I understand you don't have to do a lot of exterior modifications except perhaps for the play area. Can you describe any of the interior modifications you're going to make? Private club doesn't exactly strike me as a great layout for a child care center, so I was just kind of curious how you were going to plan to change that.
Yes. Well, being that it was a previous restaurant or lounge. I would need an architect to come in to place in. The structure is pretty much already there. We would need to tear down some of the staging that's already in there, but the architect would just put up walls to construct the classroom. So a space like that is pretty much ideal for daycare because it's an open space and doesn't require any tearing of anything down or messing with the initial structure of the location.
That makes sense. Can you talk a little bit more about that play area? We have a requirement in our zoning code that no play areas be adjacent to a loading area or a place where vehicles may be idling. I was having a little trouble understanding from your application exactly where the play area was going to be located on the building. Could you just maybe describe that in a little more detail?
Okay, so the play area per Ohio Job and Family Services Code would be about 600 square feet. It would be directly by the exit. It would come out and it would be fenced in for no more than 10 children at a time out there. And we would protect that with the first line of protection would be about 5 feet from the fencing, which would be concrete poles. And then about 5 feet from there, we would have concrete barriers to protect the playground. And from those concrete barriers, it is about 45 feet to the loading dock from that Big Lots loading dock from where the concrete barriers are. So it would be about a total of 50 feet from where the playground is.
So there are loading and unloading zones for the businesses that are still in that same building to the north there as well that I had some concern about. I don't see any particular, it says it, shall not be located adjacent to a loading space. Mr. Shook, are you satisfied that the play area here would satisfy the requirements of our code? That's not entirely clear to me.
I think we would probably need a little bit more information about what's going on in the rear of that building. I'm very familiar with that building because we've had a lot of dealings with the commercial landlord there on some code issues this year. And of course, we're very familiar with this space because we had some issues with the private club that had been operating there earlier this year. The back area that isn't a commercial loading space in the sense that you would ordinarily expect from, a big box store like a Big Lots or a Kroger. But there is a Big Lots that is just adjacent to that lot to the east. And so that might be an area of concern here. I think if there was any way to, I don't know if Andrew can pull up the aerial of the adjacent lot, and also that you can see that just east there is a Big Lots store where they do have a loading dock.
So if I can jump in. So if you see where the red is, we're planning on, we wouldn't have a problem because I've talked to the owner of the building. We wouldn't have a problem putting concrete barriers around the entire perimeter of the building if that was what was needed. He said he wouldn't have a problem with us doing that.
Is there?
Because
that helps.
Yeah, that helps tremendously.
You can see where the Big Lots is. It's right there. If we're giving the textbook definition of adjacent, I think that where you see those Big Lots trucks located, that is adjacent to where the play area would be.
Okay.
So that is a concern.
Also, too, Mr. Carter, I certainly appreciate you, trying to bring business to the city and everything. I'm just kind of curious what you feel would separate your business from some of the other businesses. It's my understanding there is a child care provider almost immediately across the street from here.
I think what would separate my child care center is one, I don't think that I know that there are not a lot of male-owned child care centers. And two, with me being a former employee of Columbus Public Schools, I know the need of early childhood development and education. And I think I bring that experience as from being in the classroom. And I think that's what would separate me as far as the curriculum and the activities that I would bring set forth for the children.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, or comments?
I'm having trouble getting past the play area adjacent requirement. I think ideally before, if I was king of the world here, I would want to maybe see an alternate play area location here, if possible, before we were to really move on with this particular application.
Okay, so the quick question before we go further, I was speaking with the owner of the grass area here about a possible, because the person that owns this building doesn't own the grass area. This is for rent. What about a play area there? Would that be a problem?
Will you walk me
Looking at
through-
that, part of the issue is that there's already another business on the far south side of that building. So how would kids be able to access that play area? I guess they just walk down the sidewalk in front of the other business down here. So the concern there would be that it's not directly connected to the interior daycare center.
Okay.
But if there's a plan, and if you can develop a plan, I think that's something we could probably take a look at. I don't think our code strictly prohibits it, but it would be concerning. And then again, it's still, we can see here how close it is to that loading dock.
Okay, so it's
and that's a safety issue more than anything else. That's for the safety of the kids.
all right, absolutely. So anything behind the building would not work because of the loading dock there.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it would work.
Okay.
Yeah, we've always had issues with these strip malls trying to put in a daycare with a playground in the back because of you have all those other individual buildings needing to load and unload because they've all got doors back there, but then the refuse, the collection of the refuse, all that goes into play on those locations, on those playgrounds.
Now,
back
what
behind
about,
there.
I'm sorry. What about does it have to be in front? Can it be in front of are we able to do it that way?
Considering the layout of the building, that might require some work here to kind of barricade the children off from the parking lot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but it would be, I think, pretty difficult.
Would there
Okay.
be an option for an indoor playground type area? I know that others have come up with certain ideas, and I know obviously Job and Family Services have certain requirements based on square footage and requirements of that nature. Would that not be something that would be easy to attain, maybe than creating something outside that may put the children in harm's way? The reason I say this is as Mr. Retke had pointed out, Ms. Wheeler and myself have come across a few of these over our time being here at Reynoldsburg. One of them specifically in the Blacklick Plaza, where it's very similar strip center, sort of like this, where they have sort of a row. This what I'm showing here. A lot of vehicle are coming back and through this, and then they had one that was basically like on over here. Now that's very dangerous because now the kids are having to cross sort of this area, and yes, it may not be an actual street, but it just, I don't necessarily know if I would want my children to be having to walk, where automobiles necessarily would be at, especially if you've got 10, 15, 20 children that are all going out at the same time. Now, I don't know the full scheme of how you're running the business and how many individuals will be watching the children. So that could obviously play into that factor. But to me, being in a center such as this, maybe something indoors would be more appropriate, but not knowing, what your size constraints are inside the building.
Okay.
There's no question that a daycare there is certainly a significantly improved use for that space than what was there before. And one other concern that I think it's important to bring this up, that would normally arise with putting a daycare in a strip mall, it would be the surrounding businesses, whether they're adult type businesses, a bar, for example. None of those are here. There's the French bakery. There's a church that occupies the far north units. And then there's the carryout that is a standalone building on the northwestern side of the lot. So those are your businesses in the area. We have not, since the private club vacated that space, we have not had any issues in this area from a crime perspective.
Is that
Not
auto
on this lot.
detailer still on the south side, or did they pull out?
On this side here,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, carry out
I'd
used to
defer to
be.
Emily on that one. She
Oh,
probably.
This is the little carryout that's over here.
Yeah, but didn't that used to be a drive-through, and then they made it an auto detailing company came in there where they're
This
just
one?
detailing cars?
Oh, this one over here on the other parcel.
No, right adjacent to where he wants to occupy.
You mean 90 degrees?
See that big garage door?
Oh, that one. Gotcha.
They were supposed to be washing and detailing cars in there.
This is from August 2019. So this is a little over a year ago. It looks like this was a thrift store and donation center. I'm not sure if that's changed since then, to be honest.
Yeah, because
As I
we
said,
we told him he couldn't stack in the front of the store. He had to stack towards the rear. There was some concern, would they be out there washing cars? And they were supposed to conduct all business on the inside of that place, and then on the outside they could, pull them out to dry them off, but that was about it. So that's adjacent almost to that playground. But again, I don't know, but that is a drive-through type building, so.
I'm not sure the appetite of.
Yeah, I don't think it's being used for that purposes.
I'm not sure the appetite of the rest of the board, but Mr. Carter, if you would like to investigate alternate configurations for the play area, I certainly would have no problem with just tabling this application for a month, and then we can reconvene and discuss if you had an additional.
Yeah, let's look into that, because the location that is, I believe that is right next door to, I guess it would be to the left, it is vacant. So I was thinking about actually adding on to that. So I will see if we can use that, if I can get that as well, and then maybe see if we can do an indoor playground that way and use that the location that's next door as an indoor playground.
Would this be what I'm outlining here? Obviously, this is separate roofs. There's two separate tenants, it looks like, in here. So it would be this one that you're speaking of, Mr. Carter?
So this one right here, I guess where where the pointer is, but to the right, I guess to the right.
Right, this one?
Yeah, it looks, that's vacant when I was there. And
Mhm.
I would ask about that and see if possible we can make that into an indoor playground. If that's, I don't know if indoor playground is even allowed by Job and Family Services. I'll have to look and see.
Okay. We're more than willing to work with you. Obviously, Mr. Shook had mentioned, this is certainly a much better use than what was previously there. So we're happy about that. And of course, we want to fill vacancies in the city and put people back to work and have good care for children in the area. So I think we're not there yet, but, we're hopeful that we can get there.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Mr. First. I move that we table this application until our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, can we have the roll call, please?
Miss Barnard,
Yes.
Miss Bowles,
Yes.
Mr. First,
Yes.
Pastor Linder, Mr. Redkey.
Yes. So the application is tabled. So if you could just come back with us with maybe an alternative idea on that playground, some other options, it may be a go. Like I said, we've had a lot over my term here, which I can't remember how many years I've been on it, but we've struggled with the playground in a strip mall like this. So it's always presented a huge challenge, and sometimes we're able to overcome it, but most of the time not. So you might have to get a little creative on this.
Mr. Carter, that would be January 21st at 6:30.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you.
And one other thing, Andrew, is there a provision where he has to give us like a floor plan of that building? Or the space he's gonna occupy, so we can see, what his intention is on the flow of students and rooms and stuff like that to consider?
In the past, we've just asked for it. And it's something that I think is probably good, knowing the space, being able to see.
Yeah, where the access points are, the restroom, stuff like that. So I'd like to see that as well.
Mr. Carter, is that something that you could provide? We don't need something that's architecturally, drawn by an architect, but something that is somewhat to scale. If you could take, maybe they've got a layout of the building from your.
When I asked the owner about it, he said that the city of Reynoldsburg had it. So he told me to contact the city of Reynoldsburg, that you had floor plans.
Not we don't need a layout of the building per se. We need in the parcels that you would be occupying, the units, that you'd be occupying, how you would lay out the rooms.
Inside of it, how you would typically do that. And I don't need you to like draft in there and draft it architecturally drawing, but just sort of, hey, I'm occupying this space in the building and this is what we're doing with the space.
Yeah, here's my
Basic
doors,
floor plan.
Here's my reception area. Then there'll be a hallway with 2 rooms on a side, the approximate square footage of each room. Nothing super fancy. We've seen some strict drawings in the past, but at least it helps you visualize what that's going to look like.
Okay.
It can be something hand drawn too. We've seen those.
Yeah.
Okay.
We appreciate it. And I'm sure you'll be working with Emily and myself moving forward.
And if I decide not to go forward, who do I just contact, Emily or?
Yes.
Okay.
And is that something you could help him find a location if this one just can't work out?
I'm sorry?
Is that
Mr.
something
Boucher.
the city could help?
Yes. Of course we could.
So it's not that we don't want your business. We need to see it maybe in a different location.
Oh, no, I just don't, again, it's a business. So, we have to, I'm thinking about finances too. So
Yeah.
there's another location that's going to work.
Yep.
And also thinking about time and things like that. So.
Yep. No, we appreciate the effort. So that's all I have. Sorry about that, and hopefully we'll come up with a idea of move this along.
All right, thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, item D2, we have an appeal for 6669 Rocky Den Road. Can we have a presentation on that, please?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak to that. So this is an appeal under our new vacant property registration ordinance that was passed last early summer. We were able to identify almost 100 vacant properties in the city of Reynoldsburg. This is one of them. The property owner is appealing the identification of her property as a vacant property. I did speak with a representative for Ms. Johnopoulos earlier today, and my understanding is that their intention is to withdraw their appeal and go ahead and register the property. But I would ask the board at this time to table it until the next meeting to see if they actually do register. I want to, protect their right to litigate their appeal if they choose later on not to register.
Yeah, I'm perfectly willing to do that. Mr. Shook, I did have one question. Do you know if the property owner has filed for an exemption, or this is kind of the first result of the finding of vacancy?
I think early on, she had requested an exemption. She didn't qualify under any of the exemptions in the new chapter. Typically those kinds of exemptions are going to be if a property is up for sale or if there's an open building permit for renovations on the property. But none of that is the case here. I think what this is that, this was the family home that she grew up in. Her mother passed away a few years ago, and I think there's a strong emotional tie to this property, and she's in a strong enough financial position. She has no need to rent it out. I think that she just wants to hold on to it. And we understand that. We just want to make sure that we've got these properties registered, secured, and taken care of, which I think she intends to do.
Sure. Yeah, this is Mr. First. I move that we table this item until the next meeting.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion. Moved and seconded. Any other further discussion? If not, can we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Barnard,
Yes.
Ms. Bowles,
Yes.
Mr. First,
Yes.
and Mr. Redkey.
Yes. Moving on, item E, other business. Any other business come before the board tonight? Hearing or seeing none, I'll move for adjournment at 7:04 p.m. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
The happy holidays.
Indeed.